All right, Shalom. I want to start off with giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Harakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. And this is just another news article of the week from RT.com. Flew away. Scientists baffled at disappearance of an influenza, but is it really gone or just masked by COVID-19? There has been 98% plummet in flu infections this year, dispelling fears of a COVID and flu twindemic about which many had warned. Experts say we can thank masks and social distancing, but does this really add up? Although there is no mass testing for flu as there is COVID, the WHO says that surveillance of data from around the world shows flu rates collapsing everywhere. Australia essentially skipped their flu season this year, with not a single case reported since July, their peak. In fact, flu has more or less vanished throughout the southern hemisphere. An early indicator suggests it will follow suit north of the equator. What can explain this unprecedented decline? And we'll go into this article, a little later in the video. Where did it go? To mine, there are three possibilities. The first is that it only seems like the flu has disappeared because doctors and scientists have been wrongly classing other respiratory diseases as COVID. Please note that the Boffins are already treating the suggestion as something akin to flat earth theory. And that is correct. They are masking up, a lot of deaths. The reports have already came out and been revealed by even different scientists and doctors that a lot of these COVID-19 cases, a lot of these death cases, they were classified as COVID-19, or as the result of the COVID, but really these people died from other issues, but they just put it in there as if they died from the COVID-19. Right? So why is all this taking place? Ultimately, so can further push his agenda to the mark of the beast system. To usher out his mark of the beast. Excuse me. And this is why, and this is why the scriptures say, let's get this first. We get this scripture. Let's get this one first. Let's go to the book of Psalms 64. Verse 3, it says, Slakia. The heart is thee, them, and their heart is thee. Verse 8, it says, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, and all that see them shall flee away. And this is what he is doing, see? His own tongue is falling upon themselves. The Egyptians versus the Egyptians, or the Egyptians against the Egyptians, Salakia. Because you have a lot of so-called white people that's in the medical field that is exposing, right? Exposing that's really going on behind the scenes. All right, how a lot of these COVID-19 listings are really people have died from other various different reasons. But they just has marked them as a COVID-19 so they can further push out their agenda. You see, so this is why, the flu is not being mentioned. And, through the spirit, I watched a video earlier in the day that Elder Yashawamba just said, what happened to the flu all of a sudden, right? The flu just disappeared. Then I just happened to do my, my weekly news check, and this hit right on the nose. Because I'm like, you're right. No one is talking about the flu anymore. The flu just happened to disappear. Why? Because they want to continue to spark up, they want to continue to spark up the, the toll with the COVID-19 instead of mentioning the flu, right? It says the second is that the COVID has crowded out the flu. It does seem to be the case that you cannot be sick with two viruses at once. A recent study from Yale University found that of 13,000 patients admitted to in a major hospital with respiratory diseases, practically no one ever had both a cold and the flu at the same time. In fact, lung tissue that had been previously exposed to the cold virus was immune to the flu virus. But the scientists say that this solution doesn't add up. No more than a fifth of the population has been exposed to COVID, and so everyone else should be fertile ground for the flu. But if they are wrong, and COVID is actually far more widespread than the scientists think, virus crowding could be contributing to the flu's downfall. The question is why COVID would have won this battle so completely, for there to be essentially zero flu cases and millions of COVID ones. Surely the flu would have gotten to some people before COVID did. All right. Hey, and see, this right here shows you, this is just another example to show you how Esau is controlling the narrative. All right. How he is pushing. See, when he wants to push his narrative, he pushes it. Okay. And he goes at he goes by any means to do it. And you see that examples of that in the show called Utopia. All right? Because now all of a sudden, no one's talking about the flu. Everyone is talking about COVID. Like the flu just disappeared. You see? And what is the season that we're in now? We're in so-called flu season. But no one is talking about the flu. Their main focus is on what? COVID. Why? Because that's the narrative that E is pushing. COVID. You see, so when you control the media, when you control all those, different type sources, like the television, okay, the media, the newspaper, all right, you have that. See, E uses that as a weapon over people's mind. Okay, so when you keep, so when you keep beating that into people's head or beating it into people's mind, right? That this is what this really is, and that is what it really is. Okay? This is what people's want to believe. And we know that E created a sheeple. E created people that don't think for themselves. So what? People are going to go with the flow. Right? They're not going to question anything. They're going to go with the flow. Continuing on, it says, but the scientists say that this solution doesn't add up. No more than a fifth of the population has been exposed to COVID, and so everyone else should be fertile ground for the flu. But if they are wrong, and COVID is actually far more widespread than the scientists think, virus crowding could be contributing to the flu's downfall. The question is why COVID should have won this battle so completely. For there to be essentially zero flu cases and millions of COVID ones, surely the flu would have gotten to some people before COVID did. The third possibility is the scientist's explanation. Before I give it, please note that either of the first two possibilities, if correct, would render ridiculous the entire response to COVID, not least because it would mean COVID is far less dangerous than has been widely asserted. Right, because you have different cases of people dying of far more by different diseases than COVID. Okay? Matter of fact, let's just try to look some up. Let's see, death by death by look at the first thing. See, this is what I'm talking about, pushing the narrative. I put death toll, the first thing that pops up is COVID, right? Now, there can be death tolls in many things, but why COVID got to be at the top? See, it's a part of that narrative that they're pushing, right? So death toll. I want to figure out how to word it. Death by, I believe this is the one, Rotometer. Let's see. They gave me the coronavirus, and it just keep popping up coronavirus. Death rate. Right? Like there's not other things out there, right? Like that there's not cancer. Okay? And different things like that. But see, this is the first things they're gonna give you. Because this is the narrative they want to push. Death by, I forget how it's worded. Causes of death. Let's see if this pops up. Causes of death toll. Okay, so number of deaths for the leading causes. Number of deaths for leading causes of death. You have heart disease, 647,457. Cancer, 500,099, and 108. And so forth, so on, as you see. Try the World Health Organization. This is since top 10 global causes of death since 2016. Top 10 global deaths 2000. Now I want to get a 2021. Okay, so Alzheimer's and all that. So that one's correct. Saying the same numbers that the other one just said. Causes of death toll 2020. I didn't mean to push that. Pushing that COVID-19. What's the hour of data? It's not showing me, but I forgot the website that was actually called. But the point is, still stands that they're pushing, the narrative that, the COVID is the main problem, right? But there's many other things, right, that people are dying from. Cancer is one of them. Alzheimer's is another one of them, right? Lung cancer, right? These different more respiratory problems people are having. So a lot of people are dying from these other problems. It's just not being, it's just not being talked about. Okay. So the verdict is in. It says the scientific establishment is quickly forming ranks behind the theory that the flu has gone away because of COVID restrictions, which is BS, especially masks, social distancing, and lockdowns. They overwhelmingly agree that this is so. The certainty is remarkable at this early stage. But why would these measures have worked so unintentionally well for the flu, which have been with us for millennia? But COVID cases are still skyrocketing. Do masks let one particle through and stop another? The proponents of this theory have an explanation. They claim that people with COVID are more contagious than those with the flu. It has a longer incubation period than the flu does, and its R rate is 3 times higher than of the flu. But even if all these estimates were right, there is still the unanswered question of why flu have been eradicated so completely, you see, because they're not pushing the flu, okay? The flu been around for a long time. The goal is to push this COVID-19, right? That's the goal. And then you got the magic mask. In my opinion, this hand-waving explanation might be just the most awesome act of cognitive dissonance of this entire saga. Experts are claiming with a straight face that a laxly enforced hodgepodge of restrictions, which varies widely between countries and regions, has overnight eradicated an ancient scourge of humanity from the face of the earth. And in the next breath, they warn that the incidence of another identically transmitted virus is through the roof. Much more likely, in my opinion, is that the flu has been confused for COVID in the vast majority of the cases. I would agree with that as well. Is it really so hard to believe that flu sufferers could have been confused for COVID cases? After all, we know that lung cancer patients were. In any case, and irrespective of explanation, one wonders if the flu's disappearing act means that the larger ever flu vaccine rollout slated for this winter, that's what Biden mentioned, dark winter, will not be canceled. Somehow I think not. You see? So, they're pushing this narrative, as it's all about the COVID-19, and just the flu is just no longer to be worried about, okay? No more flu season, none of that, because now we want to talk about COVID. COVID is more detrimental than the flu, you see? But see, Esau is just so sloppy with his work, right? So sloppy, so quick to try to get his agenda pushed, right? He's doing it all backwards. He's not even going with his full, game plan, or he's not taking his time and going to the huddle with different things. Now he's just doing what do they call that in football? A hurry up, right? Why? Because he know if we got a short time, so that's why he's about to come down with this great wrath. But I want to get this 2 Corinthians 2. 2 Corinthians 2, verse 11, it says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And guess what? Satan is going to have an advantage over the most of the world and 2/3 of our people. Why? Because they are ignorant of his devices. They are ignorant of the things that he is coming up with, right? Because the things that he have got and set and planned is ultimately to what? To destroy you, okay? And to have you and to continue to have you go along with his plan, man. Okay? Or to continue to go along with his plan until he destroys you, because that's his goal, man. All right? So, Lord willing, I didn't get too many scriptures, but this was more of a article-based lesson, but through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai, I hope it was edifying. So next time I want to say shalom.